Hi, welcome back. And I am back in university, and with a major, with a degree, with a buttload of schoolwork, also comes the responsibility of having to dig through a buttload of books. It's really self-evident at this point. However, the problem is that, tell me if this sounds like you, a course assigns you an extremely long book. I don't care if you're studying philosophy or literature or sociology or whatever the course is that requires a lot of reading. And you're sitting there, you're thinking to yourself, I should read this, I should finish this as soon as possible. Or if you're not at university, you simply just want to finish something like, I don't know, Don Quixote or War and Peace. You sit down and you think to yourself, I have to finish this. This is a duty of mine. This is my mission to acquire the bragging rights to brag about this book at the dinner table. And then what tends to happen is that the first 100 pages, more or less okay, but then once you venture over the halfway mark of the book, you lose interest. You start second guessing yourself in terms of like, is the book really worth it? Should I really spend so much time on this book? Or should I just simply abandon it? That is the problem that we're trying to address today on this video. Why is it the case that we, as human beings inhabiting the 21st century, why is it the case that it is so easy for us to lose interest? And I know for a very, very blanket answer, it simply is, technology is changing the way that we interact with the world, the ways that we engage with information all around us. And I think from that front, you're completely correct. With the development of film, with the development of streaming services and social media, the way that we process information, it just basically changed completely in the course of 100 years. Now with technology, now with shows, now with different forms of art, we were in a sense programmed to react to instant, should I say, bursts of very short and very sharp and very simple information. People no longer read long-winded books on a certain subject. Books are in a sense the last thing that you turn to for information. First line of defense, internet blogs. Second line of defense, you read a longer blog. Third line of defense, maybe the blog recommends a book, and then you're like, okay, I have to get the book and read it now. With time and with all of these technological changes, we've basically programmed ourselves into these machines that are really, really, really good at processing rapid bits of data. Even in university, the modules were presented in very short, kind of like, 10-page papers or 20-page papers. Whereas before, as I've heard from some of my professors, you were literally assigned a book a week, and that was like the expected reading volume that you were expected to fulfill. And in the course of navigating through this lack of focus, should I say, I've tried so many things. Meditation, tried drinking coffee before I read, tried, hooking myself up with sugar when I'm reading. I've reached a conclusion that if you really want to keep going, if you really want to finish, should I say, a really difficult book, such as this one, you in a sense have to change how you think about the medium of reading, how you think about, reading as an activity and as, should I say, a form of information. Technology, we're talking about films, Netflix, or text messages, or social media posts. They were designed to capture your attention. For example, this video is relatively short because I want to deliver to you as much as possible in a span of 5 minutes. This right here is the bulk of our diet when it comes down to intaking information. News articles are extremely succinct, short, to the point. Journalism, its entire job is to condense a major event down to some digestible chunks. So if you have a million buzzing flies buzzing around you, feeding you little bits of information, that's in a sense going to change how you react to information in general. So when you sit down to read a book, your brain's first instinct is to revert back to that sort of short bursts of information, and that in a sense is why when you sit down to read a book, you tend to lose interest after reading 20 pages. We're not posing any moral judgments here. We're not saying that if you couldn't read 100 pages in a sitting, then you're a bad human being. We're just simply saying that this is what we're up against if we want to become readers in the 21st century. On a more depressing note, in Walter Benjamin's paper, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, he actually coined contemplation as a form of asocial behavior, which makes a lot of sense on the surface because book people tend to be some of the most reserved and introverted people ever. But it's the way that we react to books that really needs to be reconfigured in this present day and age, because so many people jump into a large book with the wrong kind of expectations. They are constantly expecting that sort of big bursts of excitement, big bursts of information in a short window of time, not realizing that books that were older, books that were longer, books that are probably a little more profound than a usual commercial fiction, they tend to have a very long lead up. They tend to have certain things that you have to look for. You tend to have to plow through a bunch of crap before you can get to the good parts. In other videos, I might have talked about the concept of like you should quit a book if you find it boring, but now I think I'm gonna have to rethink that entire thing because after plowing through so much difficult university reading, I feel like you shouldn't really trust your intuition in this case when it comes down to digging through a long and difficult book. Sometimes it is going to be boring. Sometimes it is going to take a while. Sometimes it is going to completely, the ending part of a really difficult piece of work, it will indeed change your life. And now the evaluation of whether you should quit a book once it gets boring, it gets more nuanced and more complicated. You not only have to judge how much you're interested in a book, you also have to judge the value that this piece of literature could potentially bring you. So in a sense, you have to keep two contradictory ideas in mind, because certain parts of the book are going to make you feel like, hey, I'm wasting my time here. What's the point of even reading this big mammoth? But another part of you sort of values accomplishment or achievement, and you're gonna have these two butting heads against each other all the time. And at the end of the day, especially in this day and age, I think cracking open a book, it's in a sense an act of investment. Are you willing to put away 2 hours every single day, for example, to sit down to read Ulysses? Are you willing to dig through the initial swimming scene in Ulysses just to get to the really good part? For example, right now I am reading the chapter of Oxen of the Sun, and I think that chapter is just one of the most entertaining chapters ever. Reading a really difficult piece of book is like a roller coaster. You're gonna doubt yourself, you're gonna feel like, yes, I'm in this for the long term. And then 2 days later, you're gonna doubt yourself again, and then you're gonna be like, yes. Constant back and forth, but you have to keep that fact at the back of your mind. To read in the 21st century is basically going against the grain of the main mode of ingesting information, which is just very fast, very short, and very kinetic bursts of information at you. To go against that in itself takes a lot of effort, and to suffer through this roller coaster and to understand a piece of literature takes even more work. And that's why a lot of people quit before they can finish something, before they can actually hunker down to flip the book to its last page and say, I've read this thing. So at the end of this video, I'm really interested in what you think of this topic. Should we stick with longer form and combat this urge to quit something early just to derive the final enjoyment? Or should we simply give in to the urge and quit 20 books before finishing any one of them? Leave me your answers down below. And this is my episode on the digital gap. Through understanding this distinction between technology and reading, can you really make some really truly informed decisions as to what to read and what not to read? The choice is in your hands. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm still quite confused myself. So take what I've presented with a grain of salt, and I will see you in the next one.